Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Rishi Harinan and this is the C News Live Report at noon. Topping the news at this time, security expert Paul Daniel Nahus says a state of emergency will not help with solving crime in the long run, but what is needed is a force which is willing to break the backs of the criminal elements. On Tuesday, the Couva Point Lisa's Chamber of Commerce, the Shogunas Chamber of Industry and Commerce and the Pinal Debe Chamber of Commerce called on government to initiate a limited state of emergency, saying it needs to do whatever it takes now to stop the spiraling crime situation. They said they are very concerned about the ridiculous state of lawlessness and criminal activities in the country. However, Mr. Daniel Nahus doesn't think it will help the crime problem.
A state emergency is damaging not only to the economy, but if you don't have the intelligence in place and if you don't have the will to break the backs of the gangs, a state emergency won't do anything. We need back the SWAT unit. We need back the provisions that late Martin Joseph had put in place that was proven to start to reduce the crime, because our crime problem in Trinidad and Tobago stems from the gang epidemic in the country.
Political analyst Shane Mohammed says the people have been calling for a state of emergency because they are frustrated and tired of the rising crime situation. However, he too said this measure is simply a plaster on the cut.
The state of emergency is going to be only a plaster. It was only a plaster then, it will be a plaster now. What we need is our law enforcement officers to be empowered with greater equipment, greater techniques for detection of crime. And with regard to those people who are sitting on death row, we need to drop some blows and hang some people and let people realize that there are going to be serious consequences for their actions.
Meanwhile, Mr. Nahus says the population isn't mature enough to be given firearms to protect themselves from the criminal elements. Responding to the suggestion by the opposition leader, he said this can only make the situation worse.
As a society, we are not responsible enough to open those floodgates of firearms. I mean, look at this morning, 2 people bad drive me on the way here. And we're in a society that's, I always like to look at how we drive in Trinidad. When somebody cuts you off and cussing you, introduce a fireman to that. When people go into airport KFC and they're vexing the line and get into a scruffle in an international airport, I mean, as a society, we are not mature and responsible enough to open the floodgates of firearms.
He said citizens should have a right to protect themselves, but he said if the criminals want to commit a crime, they will do it without asking who has a gun.
You know what happens when they go to rob an armed security guard or go somewhere with an armed security guard? They don't usually hold a gun to him and say, hand over your firearm. What do? They shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen with escalation now where, okay, bandits, sorry, they have high-powered weapons, quote-unquote, and all right, people, everyone armed, no problem, we'll just shoot them before anything starts. And what's going to happen? People are going to go back to the commissioner and demand he issue license for rifles now and automatic weapons. I mean, where does it end?
Now, political analyst Shane Mohammed said the Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley should take up the role as the Minister of National Security. This is many people have called for the current Minister Edmund Dillon to be fired as they say he is not dealing with the crime situation. Mr. Mohammed said it's time for the Prime Minister to put his money where his mouth is.
And maybe stop barking and start biting at the criminals and the criminal elements and do something. And if it is that his government came in on a platform that they could do better, then you become the Minister of National Security. You're already head of the National Security Council. All of the information, the national security information and intelligence is before you. Then you need to do something.
On the issue of the death penalty, he said this should be on the plan of the government as it can put fear in the minds of the criminals. He went on to suggest corporal punishment be used at the level of the prison system.
Not only should we bring back hangings, but we should advocate for judges who sit in the criminal court to implement corporal punishment on heinous crimes. There was one judge that I knew, and I still know, that made it his business when he was sentencing people for heinous crimes, because I was once sitting in his court as a court clerk. Mr. Justice Herbert Volney was not afraid to use sentencing the people to strokes with the birch or the cat o' nine tails, and that still exists on our law books.
While you're watching the C News Live Report at noon, remember you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at C News Live. Members of the police service are investigating the discovery of a body of a man found in a drain behind the Astra Girls College in El Dorado. It was found this morning. According to reports, the body of 66-year-old Enrico Pacheco was found at around 8 o'clock. Reports are sketchy at this time. but C News understands the body has been removed by the members of the CSI and was taken to the Forensic Science Center in St. James. We will have more on this as details come to hand. Meanwhile, police are also investigating a shooting incident in Barataria this morning which left a 20-year-old man dead. C News understands Keston Joseph was at a house party along Upper 7th Avenue, Barataria, when a gunman entered and fired several shots in his direction. Joseph was hit and rushed to hospital. However, he was pronounced dead on arrival. Another man was also hit. He is said to be in hospital in a serious but stable condition. Despite all the negativities leveled against the police and those in charge of fighting crime, the association representing police officers said it remains committed to addressing the issue.
We remain very committed to putting their best foot forward to improve public safety and especially as much as they can to reduce the incidence of murder.
Additionally, he said junior officers are also working assiduously to strengthen intelligence sharing.
They are using social media as one of the options. I see that like there are groups in Central and Southern Division which have engaged in some information sharing platform where they are networking the information as it comes so that they can improve the response time and also to improve the intelligence sharing.
To some other news now, workers at the Agricultural Development Bank at Sapero Street in San Fernando protested this morning calling for a 14% wage increase and their back pay from 2010. The 18 workers say they have been doing their job over the years and now they feel they are being mistreated.
No, we're not asking for anything, we're just asking what we are owed. Right, and we'd appreciate if something be done because nobody are really doing anything. Alright, so basically since mid-2015 we sent our proposal to the interministerial committee. Right, it's just for them to sign off on our document and since today nothing has been signed.
C News was told protests like this will take place at the ADB's office in Port of Spain, Shoguana, Sangre Grande and Tobago, as well as because the workers say they cannot continue on the 2010 salaries in 2017. One woman told us things are becoming difficult for her.
As you can see, I have a baby anyway. A tin of milk in the groceries $145. I can't afford that on this salary. So basically we're asking the persons in authority to give us what is due to us.
Overall, about 200 workers are calling for what they say is rightfully theirs. C News contacted the ADB's communications manager who told us the matter is being looked into. The funeral for the mother and two children who died in a vehicular accident on January 26th began at around 10 o'clock this morning. 31-year-old Carla Collins along with her 2-year-old and 8-month-old children were killed when another car hit the one they were in at the Mausaka Junction and the priority bus route. The funeral took place at the Divine Encounter Fellowship Ministries International at Ragu Road, Dabadi, and is proceeding to the Tunapuna Cemetery for burial. Now a look at the weather forecast with Ian Wallace.
The 2017 dry season is set to be hotter than normal with long hot spells, but at least not as dry as it was in 2016, with near normal rainfall expected for the entire dry season overall, says the Meteorological Service. Today, look for sunny spells across both islands with only a few clouds and a brief shower coming across the hills. By later today and into Thursday, look for more moisture as clouds build in from southern Trinidad from tomorrow. It will feel pleasant, 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. And for bathers and boaters, watch for choppy seas of 2.5 meters, possibly pushing 3 meters out in the Atlantic, with strong easterly winds of 20 knots, bringing sea spray and easterly swells remaining short at 8 to 9 seconds. That's the latest weather, and I am meteorologist Ian Wallace.
The Ministry of Social Development and Family Services is planning to meet with the persons associated with visual impairment on Thursday to discuss the issue of subvention. This after the group said it has not been receiving money from the ministry for some time now. In a statement, the ministry said PAVI has been the recipient of a subvention since 2009. However, the last approval for the subvention ended in December 2015. In accordance with the stipulated procedures, it said at the end of the approved period of the subvention, PAVI was requested to submit documentation to enable consideration of the provision of a subvention for an additional period. In August 2016, the ministry met with PAVI on this matter, and to date, the information requested has not been forthcoming. We go to Tobago now, and the chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce Tobago Division, Demi John Cruikshank, said it's definitely not going to be business as usual with this new THA Executive Council. Mr. Cruikshank said he met with the new Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles and assured him that the Chamber will hold them accountable to the people. He was speaking on Tuesday in an interview with our Tobago reporter Patricia Nicholson.
Cruikshank said the Chamber is going to call out the THA if it fails to fulfill promises made to the people of Tobago. Cruikshank said he spoke with Chief Secretary Kelvin Charles about the late payment to suppliers of the THA and was assured that all outstanding bills are to be paid.
The Chamber of Commerce, let me put it on record, will not sit idly by and allow any Tobago House of Assembly to get away with what it got away with in the last couple of years. We are going to be very vigilant. We're going to send the message early that we are not going to accept business as how it used to be.
On the issue of tourism, he said a decline in both domestic and international tourist arrivals was reported by the Hotel and the Tourism Association. He said this was mainly due to the unreliability of the air and the sea bridges.
And if the air bridge is not working, we have serious problems, especially with your domestic tourism.
The non-sailing of the cargo vessel is another major problem the business sector in Tobago faces. Mr. Cruikshank said a meeting was scheduled for Tuesday with Transport Minister Ruhan Sinanan to deal with this matter. He said the time for talk was over.
We have to meet with the Minister of Transportation, that's his primary responsibility, to find out a way. One, what is the arrangement with the existing cargo vessel, the Superfast Galaxia? What is the contractual arrangement with them? Two, if there is no contract in place, what is the option of having another vessel?
I'm Patricia Nicholson for C News.
Back in Trinidad now, and the chairman of the Point Lisa Sport Development Corporation says all financial accounts have been up to date, despite 2008 accounts now being brought before the Public Accounts Committee. The Minister of Labour asked questions about this during a sitting of the Public Accounts Committee on State Enterprises earlier and said this is totally unacceptable. However, Mr. Attlee defended the company.
Committee, the corporation, November of 2011, and it was up to date then, and we continued until the end of 2015 to be fully compliant.
Based on this response, Chairman of the committee, Wade Marks, said the PAC will have to do further inquiries to ensure what is being said is in fact the truth. Meanwhile, the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Works, Danmati Ramnath, said Plebdeco is the shining star among state entities. This despite only being in her second month in the position. She said from what she has seen, the company isn't doing anything wrong. When asked about the internal auditing systems at the Ministry of Works and Transport, she said the department is not fully equipped.
We are now trying to ensure that they are equipped to assess risk management. That is one of the weaknesses in our internal controls within the internal audit and Ministry of Works and Transport at this time.
Some PAN news now, and there are more steel bands than there are players. That's the view of the NLCB Fontclair arranger Ken Professor Fillmore. Mr. Fillmore spoke to C News on Monday night after his band performed for the judges at their San Fernando home. Ian Wason has more.
NLCB Fontclair was one of the bands to play for the judges on Monday evening in the South Central region, playing an original Pan Soldiers, a song that's older than some of the players. They played with less than 100% attendance.
A lot of bands might be suffering with the full amount of players because, you know, single pan just finished and it have more steel bands than players. Right. So that's the reality of the thing, you know, it have more steel bands than players. So it's not only Fontclair might be suffering the full amount, but in time for semi-finals, we should have a full house. I think we had about 75 to 85 tonight, somewhere around there, you know.
Also facing the judges was Skiffle. They played for the adjudicators Peter Ram's Good Morning, a song they fell in love with from day one.
When we heard this song, when it actually came over for Crop Over, we all were like, wow, this is an amazing song. And since then, I guess we all knew that this was going to be our song. So by the time we were ready to select a song, this was already known to all of us that this was the song, you know?
Steel bands in the North region next face the judges. Ian Rayson, C News.
With all the confusion surrounding the sacking, hiring, resignation and eventual hiring of a national coach, the wonderful development work being undertaken at the youth level gets some highlighting. Ruskin Mark has more on the approach by Russell Latupy, who is putting in the hard yards to get youth players up to a certain level.
Work is going on with some of this country's top under-17 footballers as they look to step up to represent TNT in the future. The man driving this new development approach is former TNT captain and inspiration Russell Latupy, who isn't preparing the youths for any specific tournament in mind, but wants to help them improve.
The thing that we need to change mostly, I think, is a mindset, you know. We tend to take shortcuts in doing a lot of things that we do. So firstly, we change the mindset and get the players to understand that anything they want, they have to work for and get them to be as fit as possible.
With this approach, Latupy is preaching technical development, so the youths could understand the game a little bit better and have an appreciation for what he or any other coach will ask them to do.
For me, it would be the way we play football. You know, we've had a lot of problems in this last tournament with the way we defend. The way we defend dead balls, the way we defend from open play, and that would be one of the key things that I would be trying to do, which is concede less goals. You know, we conceded 7 goals in 3 games, and obviously if you're trying to qualify for big tournaments, then that is way too much.
The little magician, who impressed all with his silky smooth skills at a very tender age, is hoping to encourage more of that, where players can express themselves more on the ball and not be too rigid when coaching them.
I want some of these young men to enjoy themselves, so we're not going to take away from their creativity. So we have to find a way where we defend properly and get them to be creative and innovative up top in creating chances and scoring chances, entertaining us, but also winning football games. So, I mean, these are the things that we definitely will be working on.
With this new approach, Latupy is hoping to supply future national teams with better prepared players who are capable of adapting to the demands of international football a lot easier than what obtains today. Ruskin Mark, C Sports.
By this time next week, Central FC could be 3-time back-to-back TT Pro League champions, or if a combination of San Juan Jabloteh and W Connection have their way in the final round of matches this weekend, Central's shot at history could amount to naught. The Sharks currently lead the league by a solitary point, but face a San Juan Jabloteh eager to secure their second top 3 finish in consecutive seasons. It will be tough for Connection too, as they take on Mapao Stars, who are also in the hunt for 3rd place.
As things stand now, neither San Juan Jabloteh nor Mapao Stars are in contention for positions 1 and 2 on the table. But their own little battle for 3rd spot could make things very tricky for the 2 title chasers. Back-to-back champions, Central FC will have to navigate 3rd-placed San Juan Jabloteh on Sunday. In a simultaneous fixture, Connection, the only team capable of stealing Central's thunder, will have a challenge themselves from Mapao Stars.
Part and parcel of the sport. I mean, there's no real pressure on the club. The players are confident. They've done well thus far. We've played some really exciting football. And we're looking forward to the challenge. I mean, it's part and parcel of being a professional athlete.
On our final game day will be on Sunday, and both teams are playing at 3:30. So it's, you know, we're both starting off on an equal playing field, and that both teams won't know what's happening at the other venue. Regaining the league title is our dream for this season. It's going to be a pretty difficult one, seeing that both teams have just 1 game left and are separated by 1 point.
Looking at the rest of the table, Club Sando have done well to essentially seal 5th spot as their own in only their 2nd Pro League season, especially after a slowish start under Angus Eve. Meanwhile, the Protective Services teams, police and the Defence Force especially will end up in unfamiliar territory in the bottom half of the table. The same can be said of Mova Caledonia United, who cannot surpass St. Anne's Rangers' 16 points and also cannot be leapfrogged by the bottom of the table team, Point Fortin Civic. As the campaign comes to an end, Rangers could look back on a decent season, finally shaking their reputation as the league's whipping boys, while Point Fortin seems to have completely taken on that persona as their own.
The West Indies Cricket Board has announced the appointment of Roland Foston as Chief Operating Officer effective January 1st. Foston, who is the current Corporate Secretary, will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business, ensuring the organization has the proper operational controls, administrative and reporting procedures. She will also lead the charge to put proper systems in place to effectively grow the organization and to ensure its financial strength and operational efficiency. Foston, an attorney by training, has been with the WICB for the last 5 years and retains the role of Corporate Secretary. Well, that's it for sport. Well, that's the C News report at noon. Remember, for up-to-date and breaking news throughout the day, you can visit the C News website at ctvtt.com. I'm Rishi Harinanan. Have a good afternoon.